Last month on our way to Europe, we spent 24 hours in Chicago before we flew to Paris. And in today's episode, we are sharing all of the details, including the hotel, the activities that we did, and more. So listen in. Hi, I'm Rhea.
And I'm Dwayne.
And we are your hosts of the Travel Party of Five podcast, where we share how we travel as a family of five around the world.
We will also share how we use points and miles to travel as affordably as possible and sometimes even completely free.
So if you're wanting to travel more with your family, but you're not sure how, we'd love for you to listen in.
So welcome to our podcast, where we hope you learn a thing or two to get you closer to your next trip.
Hey guys, welcome back to Travel Party of Five podcast. My name is Rhea. I am your host. I am solo today. Dwayne is running around picking up kids from play dates and birthday parties, and it's been a very busy weekend. So it is just me today, and I realized that we never shared really any details around our 24 hours that we spent in Chicago before we flew to Europe. And I've got a couple of really good tips and tricks on like how we did that positioning flight and where we stayed and all that. And so I definitely thought it was worthy of a podcast episode. But before we get into all the details of that, I wanted to just go through a couple of quick updates around card applications that we have done and status of those, future applications that I plan to make in the next week or so. And a quick reminder also about the Chase Sapphire Preferred 100,000 point offer. I believe that is set to end May 12th. And so you've still got about 2 weeks if you have not applied for that card yet and you don't currently have it. That is by far the biggest sign-up bonus that card has ever seen. The Chase Sapphire Preferred is absolutely the number one most recommended card for beginners getting into points and miles. And as a reminder, if you have never had this card or it's been more than 48 months since you last earned the sign-up bonus on the card, you are eligible to apply again. I wish that I was eligible, but sadly, we are not. So I will put our referral link in the show notes. If you are planning to apply for that card, I would first absolutely recommend it. And second, would love it if you would use our referral link. However, if you have a spouse or a friend or whatever who already has the card, get a referral link from them. That would be the best course of action. If you don't, then yes, please use our link. Again, I will put it in the show notes. As far as card updates, so there's also currently elevated offers on the Hilton cards. So the Hilton Surpass, and I forget the name of the other one, but they have elevated offers where you can get the welcome offer plus a free night certificate. And these cards don't normally come with free night certificates. And that offer is actually going to end, I think, April 29th, which will literally be one day after this podcast airs. So if you're listening to this on Monday, April 28th, and you are in the market for a new Amex or Hilton card, I would absolutely recommend getting those, or one of them at least. I have been trying to get that for myself, and I am in Amex pop-up jail. Dwayne already has the Hilton Aspire card, which does come with a free night every single year, but I want to apply him for the Hilton Surpass, because then he'll have a second free night that we could use, plus some points. However, it's a personal card, and it will count towards his 524, and I also need to apply him for a Chase Ink card, and I would like to do that also on the 29th of April, which is, as I mentioned, when the Hilton offers end. So I know this is a little bit rambly, but I think my plan is going to be to apply him for the ink. Hopefully he gets approved. He hasn't had a new Chase Ink since sometime last year. And then also try him for the Surpass with the elevated offer. We could definitely meet both minimum spends. We are in the process of remodeling our shower in one of our bathrooms, and so we can definitely meet it both on both cards. I'm just not sure if he'll get approved or not. And when I try, I keep getting the pop-up. So I'm in Amex pop-up jail, which is frustrating because I've been there for a very long time. I don't think I've ever even had an Amex personal card, and they do not want me to get one. So TBD on that. But that's kind of what's going on in our ecosystem over here. Okay, so let's jump into our positioning flight that we took to Chicago before our Europe trip. So when I was booking our flights, and I potentially touched on this piece in the Paris episode, but I booked it so far out that the Phoenix to Paris direct route actually hadn't even been opened yet. Like, you couldn't book it using points yet. And I got impatient. And so I, looked around like LAX, SFO, Dallas, Chicago, like Denver. Those are kind of all within a couple of hour flight from us, where it would make sense to reposition. And they did have really good availability out of Chicago. So I was able to book us for 85,000 points on Air France from Chicago direct to Paris. And that's, again, the price for all 5 of us. Since I made that booking, Air France has done and Flying Blue has done a devaluation. So it will cost a little bit more, probably a little over 100,000 points now, to do that same flight for 5 kids. As long as they're all under the age of 12. But it was cheap enough that it made sense for us to reposition to Chicago. So we did that using Southwest. We actually paid cash. We had a combination of Southwest credits that we had earned from a Southwest flight being delayed more than 2 hours. And I also had some gift cards that I had bought. Costco sometimes has Southwest gift cards where it's like $450 and you get a $500 gift card. I didn't do that, but I did buy a Southwest gift card once or twice when Amex was having like the sale where you can use one membership reward and it gives you like a $30 or $50 credit. And so I bought a Southwest gift card with that. So all in all, I think out of pocket, we spent $300 or $400 and the rest were credits. And I felt like that was not bad for a positioning flight. The cost of the flights themselves was astronomical, in my opinion. I think it was close to $1,000. But because we had all those credits and the gift card, it brought my out of pocket down pretty significantly, and I was okay with paying like the $300 or $400 that it ended up costing. We flew from Phoenix to Midway on a direct flight. It's about 3 hours from Phoenix. And we stayed overnight at the Intercontinental Magnificent Mile. So let's talk about this hotel for a second. The Intercontinental is under the IHG umbrella, and it was Chicago in March, so definitely not peak tourist time at all. In fact, it snowed the day that we were there, which my kids thought was incredible. They loved it so much. But we used the free night certificate that comes with my IHG Premier Rewards card to book that one night. And again, I booked for 4 people. Obviously, we have 5. It worked out fine. To get from the airport to the hotel, we took a taxi. Actually, no, not a taxi. We took a Lyft. My 5-year-old used the Ride Safer vest in lieu of a car seat, and that worked out really well. We checked into the hotel, and they gave us, I had booked a standard room, and they gave us the room. We went up to the room, and it was very small. Like, I am talking the size of a shoebox, 2 double beds, really no room for anything else. And the reality is it would have been completely fine for one night, even for all 5 of us. Like, we absolutely could have fit. It would have been fine. But about 5 minutes after we got into the room, I got a text from like someone in the hotel, basically just saying, welcome, and is everything up to your standards, and is there anything we can do? And I have IHG Platinum status with the Premier Rewards card. And so that is their second highest status level. So it's not highest. Highest would be Diamond Elite. So I'm sorry, it's not Platinum. It's Platinum Elite. Okay. And then highest is Diamond Elite. And so it's not the highest, but it's not the lowest. And I sent a simple text back saying, thank you so much. Everything is great, but would it be possible to get a larger room due to my status? And they were like within 20 minutes, we were in a bigger room. And so I was super impressed with that. Now, the bigger room definitely still had the same like 2 double beds kind of vibe, but there was a ton more room. There was a little chair, and then we also asked them to bring up a pack and play. They ended up bringing up a crib, which, I mean, my 5-year-old was like, I'm not a baby. I'm not going to sleep in that. And she didn't actually, but we made it work. So one of my kids slept on the floor. For the record, that was completely their choice. Like, they were excited to do it. And then there were actually 2 chairs in the room. And so we pushed the chairs together to kind of form a little bed for my other kid. And then my daughter slept in the bed with one of us, my youngest, because she's the smallest. And when I woke up in the morning, my kid who had wanted to sleep on the ground was sleeping in that chair bed with their brother. So my 2 boys ended up sleeping in that chair, which was pretty funny because it was not very big. Like, it was probably the same size as the crib for the most part. But they made it work, and they seemed fine about it. So no one complained. It worked great. And it was definitely nice to have a smidge more space, even if it was just for that one night. The other reason that I chose this hotel, beyond the fact that I could use my free night certificate, which was expiring literally in April, and so we used it in March, so just in the nick of time, was they had an indoor pool. And that was important because I really wanted the kids to be able to get some energy out before we got on this long, 9-hour red-eye flight. And so we did use the pool. It was great. This hotel also has like movie night. I don't know if it's every Friday or Saturday. We were there on a Friday, so I'm not sure if they do it other nights, but definitely on Fridays they do like a movie by the pool where they set up like lemonade and popcorn and they put on a kids movie, and you can just go take your kids there and they can swim. And it was really nice. So we did that. All the kids went in and I went in the water. The only thing I will say is this pool is not going to be great for young kids because the distance between the wall, like the top of the pool where you would get out, and the water is like a good 2 feet. So you have to use the ladder. And if you're like wanting to hang on to the wall, like it's a little challenging. So I went in with our 5-year-old and it was fine, but I wouldn't have been comfortable with her being in there without one of us. It was also pretty deep. So 2 things to keep in mind. But if your kids have floaties or they're great swimmers like my boys, then absolutely. And so they were playing, I think the movie was one of the more newer Trolls movies. And so it was great. We went swimming, we had popcorn, we had lemonade, and the kids got to swim. And it was a really fun thing to be able to do when it was literally snowing outside. So I would absolutely recommend this hotel. It was also very close and walkable to a lot of the touristy things like the Starbucks Reserve. We probably could have walked to the Bean, but it was a little over a mile, so we took a taxi. We walked to the ice cream museum, and I'll get into details about that here in a moment. But all in all, we were pretty happy with the hotel and the property. Would 100% stay again, and the service was very good. Like the doorman was super helpful. We spoke to him and got his advice several times, and he was great with the kids. And so we really enjoyed it and would definitely recommend it. As far as activities, so we had about 24 hours in Chicago, and so we wanted to make the most of it. So we did go and have some deep dish pizza at, I forget the name, but one of the famous places. It'll come to me. And the kids liked that. We also had wings. My 11-year-old loves chicken wings, so that was a win for him. And then we went to the ice cream museum. And these ice cream museums are popping up in different like big cities. Like I know they have one in New York City and a few others. And so we thought, okay, it'll be fun. We'll go check it out. I am going to be honest, I would not do that again. The kids loved it. I, as an adult, we didn't love it that much. The ice cream is pretty basic. Like it's probably like Walmart brand ice cream. It wasn't anything special. The rooms are very like Instagram-y. So if you want to go take some cute photos for Instagram, you could definitely do that. It was cool for the kids. Again, they enjoyed it. They did have like a hot dog ice cream that we tried that was not good, as a side note, but it was a fun thing to try. We all laughed about it. And at the end, they have like it looks like a giant sprinkle pit. So imagine a ball pit, but instead of the balls, it's like multicolored rainbow sprinkles. And that was fun too. I'm sure it's full of germs, but again, kids had a great time. They had some slides. You could go down into it. It was maybe like a foot and a half deep. It wasn't super deep, but they had fun. I thought it was very expensive for what you got out of it. So again, I wouldn't personally pay for it again, but the kids really enjoyed it and they still talk about it. So I guess that is worth something. The other thing that we did was we woke up in the morning and went to the Starbucks Reserve. We didn't end up getting anything here because the lines were very long, but we went up to each floor and just kind of scoped it out. It was cool. Not really like a kid vibe though. And Dwayne loves shoes and all things Nike. So we also went in this Nike store that had like 4 levels to it. I don't know. It's, again, not my thing, but he was into it, so we went. And then we met my brother-in-law who lives in Chicago. He lives about an hour outside of Chicago, actually. We met him for lunch at Ed DeBevick's, which was walking distance from the hotel. Ed DeBevick's is one of those restaurants where the servers are known for being rude to you. So instead of like being like, oh, hi, welcome in, nice to meet you, they're like, what do you want? Like, get out of my face. Like, and it's funny. And so we went there, we ate, it's basic like diner food. The kids enjoyed it. My 11-year-old was working on his comebacks like to the server, like for like 10 minutes. And then she would come back and he would use it. And she was totally unfazed. And it was hilarious because he was like getting kind of annoyed. And I thought it was just the best. They do like some singing and dancing at one point, and it's funny, it's cute. I would totally go there again. But again, the food is basic diner food, so just keep that in mind. But that you don't go for the food, you go for the atmosphere, right? Also, going back to the pizza, it was Lou Malnati's that we went to and had the deep dish pizza. So, I mean, that's a Chicago staple. I've had it before, but my kids had never been to Chicago. So this was like a quick introduction to Chicago for them. We looked at the river. We were actually there about a week before St. Patrick's Day. So I was telling them that the river is going to be green in about a week, in honor of St. Patrick's Day. And so then we had a whole conversation about how that would work. And the truth is, I have no idea. And the other thing is we went to the Bean. So we took a taxi to the Bean just kind of to see it. I know it was closed for a while. It is open now. The kids, I don't know if they really cared about the Bean, but again, they still talk about the ice cream museum. So if you want to spend $200+ to give your kids a good memory, you can do that. Let's see, what else? Using the free night certificate from this credit card for a positioning flight is a fantastic use of it. And the way that the IHG free night certificates work is you can get a free night in a hotel up to 40,000 points. If the room that night costs more than 40,000 points, then you have to pay that balance of points. So like, if you don't have any, then you could maybe buy some, or you just can't use the certificate for that night. For the night that we stayed, when I booked it, it was around 37,000 points a night. So with the free night certificate, it was completely free. And I basically was very close to, the $40,000, the 40,000 point value. So I felt really good about that. Again, we stayed for free. So I don't know what more I could really ask for. Cards like this that have this benefit, I think, make positioning flights much more doable. And we definitely didn't want to fly up on the same day, just in case there were any delays or anything like that. And because we were flying into one airport and out of another. So that would have just been way too stressful to do all in one day, especially when you have really no control over whether or not your plane is on time. And so we flew into Midway. We went into the city for, about 24 hours. And then we took a taxi back from the hotel to O'Hare. And we flew direct out of O'Hare into Paris. And obviously we have a whole Paris episode and several other episodes about our Europe trip. If you are new and haven't heard those yet, I definitely think they're worth a listen, because we had a great time. We had a great trip. But I think positioning flights in general can be super, super helpful when you're trying to fly a lot of people like we are. And this allowed us to save a ton of points and have a really fun experience as well. So now my kids have been to Chicago. It's almost like getting 2 trips for the price of 1 in a way. So I hope this episode was helpful. If you've been considering a positioning flight, next week's episode is actually going to go into much more detail about, how they work and maybe some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way, because we have several more positioning flights coming up this year and next. So definitely listen into that if you would like more information. And if you get any value out of this podcast whatsoever, I would be so, so grateful if you would take 2 seconds to go to wherever you listen to this podcast and leave us a rating or review. That really helps more people find our podcast. And that is my goal, is to grow the podcast. So thank you very much for listening. We appreciate you. Come say hi to me on Instagram at TravelPartyOf5. I've been having some really good conversations over there in my DMs, and I am super happy every time you message me. Okay, have a great week, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye.